This program, we're measuring leaves. So my students went out on the yard and we found leaves and we estimated what the distance around the leaf might be, and then we measured it. And in this program here, students could look at half of the leaf and say, well, if I measured half, would it tell me how much the entire leaf is? Would that be accurate in this case? So you could have a little discussion about symmetry. You could also discuss how are we going to talk about the lengths that we're moving in. So each time the arrow moves, it moves 10 steps. So are we going to count up all those steps, or is 10 steps one unit of measure? So you can have that conversation about units of measure as well. If we look at the code, when the space key is pressed, we put the pen down, we set the pen size to 4, and move 10 steps. Now I've added in here length as well, and that is from data. I created a variable, and a variable it's a kind of container, and you can tell the program what that container or what that thing is. And if you give it a value, here I've given it 1, then it will say this is length, and it will change length by 1 each time you tell it to. At the beginning of my program, the variable I've called length will be set to 0 so that it doesn't keep counting up each time the program's run. So change length by 1, set length to 0 at the beginning. So that's all that's doing. And it measures that by each time the space key is pressed and the arrow moves. Inside that code, it changes and adds up, and it will continue to add. So I hit the green flag to make sure that the arrow is in front of the leaf, to set the length to 0, to point it in the direction 90 degrees, which is to the right, and I'm setting it at X and Y coordinates that put it right down here to make it easy for students to start coding the leaf. At the end of this code, it also clears off anything that was left behind from before. And the final two bits of code is when the right arrow key is pressed, we will turn 15 degrees to the right. When the left arrow key is pressed, we'll turn 15 degrees to the left. So I can see that now as I get my arrow pointed in the right direction, and then I tap once, maybe twice, turn, tap, and students did fairly well with this in my class. What they decided was that they wanted it to be centimeters, and they said it's not accurately measuring centimeters because there's way more units of measure here than there was when we did it outside for the leaves. And I said, okay, so why don't you figure out how many steps each measurement should be if you want it to be closer to centimeters. And so they did, and what they came up with independently was 30 steps, and that became the length that they felt was around 1 centimeter in length. So then that was 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3, and so on. And that's how they measured their leaves. Now, after using this program, you might want the students to first, actually before using this exact program, you might want to have them do it without the length blocks. So you pull the variable out, leave it over here, or discard it and pull it in after. And they can run the program this way so that they're not keeping track of the length. So to get rid of it completely, if I throw these away and reset my program, and delete, I can bring it back or take it out of the screen completely. So running the program this way, now the students have to count and keep track of how many steps, centimeters, or whatever they decide the unit of measure is to get around, and they'll have to track that data as well. And then afterwards, you could reintroduce length, and you could set length back to 0 and change length by 1 each time, and then restart the program And they could check the answer that they got by measuring a second time to see if they counted accurately. So the program helps them to check their answer. After doing this, you might want to upload a different image, or the students themselves more likely will want to upload a different image. So at that point, what you can do, I'm just going to make a copy here. And at this point, you could get rid of the leaf by right-clicking and deleting the leaf. And then, if you go on the interwebs, you could look up an image of anything. Look up an image of a car. You might want to measure a car. And then, of course, we would go to Tools, and we would click on All Results. No, oh, sorry. Click on Images, click on Tools, click on Usage Rights, label for non-commercial use with remodification. So that's actually quite a few images. So, but if they go to the right, if they go pick an image, one that they like, then they can make use of that image. And the background will upload with the picture. So if they want to truly do this, then they should look up a PNG car image. And we've got the same label. You'll notice there's far less, but the background is not in these images. These down here are not PNGs. This one is. These are as well. So they have a lot less to choose from, but still they could choose this car here. They can view the image. And then you can tell when you look at the image, if it has that checkerboard in the background, that it's a PNG file. And then they could save the image. Go back to their Scratch project. And if they click on the Upload folder, upload the picture of the car. Shrink it down with the shrink arrows. Get a good size. And lastly, their arrow now, they would have to take this arrow, reset the program, and then take the arrow and decide where they would want to start measuring from. So if it were this point here, then what they need to do is they need to change this XY. Now, the nice thing about the XY is when you click on motion and you find the XY block, it's always got the coordinates that the students drag this to. So wherever the students drag this, you'll see that that block changes. And that's the exact point where we'll start moving from. And it automatically puts those numbers in for the students, which is really nice. Oops. We don't want to do that when we turn left. Okay, so we've got it all set up. Click the green flag, and now we're measuring a car. And they try to get as close as they can to measuring the outside of the vehicle.